Buona Gioia from Gakharia. This is the Rorschach, Georgia update from the 8th of January, 2026. Quick summary of what's going down in Georgia. Events that took place in Venezuela, which ended with the capture of President Maduro by U.S. forces, were a major talking point in Georgia. Tuesday the 6th, the chair of the Georgian Dream, or Kotsebi parliament, used the situation to criticize the West, specifically the EU. He said that not only is the EU no longer a guarantor of the international order, but is also no longer a relevant geopolitical player. He added that members of the radical opposition are happy about the regime change in Venezuela because they also seek to change the government with the help of external forces. On the other hand, Ivanishvili, former president of Georgia, was far more direct in her comments regarding Venezuela. She said that nothing is permanent, and no matter how strong and powerful dictators might be, their end is always inevitable and often severe. Related news, since 2009, Venezuela has been one of the very few countries in the world to recognize the Georgian regions of Abkhazia and South Ossetia as independent states. Georgia's foreign ministry says that it hopes the new Venezuelan government will reverse this decision and respect Georgia's borders. However, officials in Abkhazia say they aren't worried. They say that international recognition isn't their main goal, and instead they're focused on their own economy and strengthening ties with Russia. Interestingly, another country that recognizes Georgia's two separatist regions as independent is Syria, which also had an unexpected change in leadership last year. Funny how it seems to go for regimes that are obedient to the Kremlin. On Tuesday the 6th, on the eve of Orthodox Christmas, the Georgian Orthodox Church released a traditional holiday message from Patriarch Ilya II. The letter focused on the balance between freedom and morality. Patriarch says that many people today confuse sinful behavior with true love, and they mistake doing whatever they want for actual freedom. He described the abuse of free speech as one of the hardest challenges of our time. Parliament Speaker Shelva Papuashvili commented on this message, saying that free speech has become a murderous weapon used to destroy the human soul. He warned people to stop listening to Brussels, foreign-funded NGOs, and fake ideologies. Instead, he said Georgians should follow the church and its word, which have guided the nation for 17 centuries. Speaking of the church, on Friday the 2nd, Archpriest Andrea Gakharia, the spokesperson for the Georgian Orthodox Church, gave an interview with the church's TV station Ertsulov Neba, where he spoke about the ongoing protests. He said that the church didn't turn its back on protesters and asked the government 3 times to release prisoners held for minor offenses. This included a direct request for the release of Mzia Makhlombeli, a journalist and founder of online news outlets Batumelebi and Net Gazeti. Gakharia said he spoke to officials twice, to the Metropolitan Shio, and even took the matter directly to Prime Minister Kobakhidze. However, the government has not acted on these requests and have ignored the church. More messages. On New Year's Eve, Bidzina Ivanishvili, founder of the ruling party and Georgia's wealthiest person, shared a public letter to the nation. He said that 2025 was a year of intense struggle against what he called a global evil force that wants to control the world. He said this force tried to undermine Georgia's sovereignty from both inside and outside the country. Ivanishvili said his political team successfully fought back with a calm and pragmatic approach. Promised that 2026 he would not back down or get tired of his unequal battle. He described himself as a rank-and-file soldier for his country and said he would continue to serve as long as the people find his work necessary. Beka Liloashvili, prominent member of Gogi Gakharia's Party for Georgia, or Sakartvelostvis, officially quit politics on New Year's Day. He said he plans to move into the private sector to focus on finance and technology. This exit is a blow for Gakharia, who currently lives in exile to avoid potential imprisonment. After the party ended its boycott and entered parliament, several of its high-profile members left. As one of the party's youngest and most popular people, Liloashvili's departure signals deeper trouble for Gakharia's struggling team, which continues to lose influence while its leader remains stuck abroad. In other news, on Friday the 2nd, Russian member of parliament Viktor Vodolatsky criticized Georgia for denying entry to certain Russian citizens. He said Georgian border guards were turning away anyone born in Ukraine's occupied territories, for example, Crimea and parts of the Donbass. Vodolatsky called this a violation of principle and even labeled it genocide based on birthplace. A little dramatic. He said he found these restrictions strange because many Georgian officials were visiting Moscow to improve relations. I bet they are. He warned that some people within Georgia's security forces are actively trying to sabotage the friendship between the two nations. Vodoletsky now wants Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze to investigate who is responsible. Meanwhile, Russian state media and pro-war Telegram channels are saying that the captain of a Russian-flagged oil tanker seized by the United States is a Georgian citizen. They also said that the crew was mainly composed of Ukrainians and Georgians. On Wednesday, the 7th U.S. forces intercepted the tanker Marinera, formerly known as Bela 1, in the North Atlantic after tracking it for more than 2 weeks. The United States says the ship tried to evade a U.S. naval blockade tied to sanctions on Venezuela and Iran and ignored Coast Guard orders. U.S. officials have a court warrant to seize the vessel for violating sanctions and say the crew could face criminal prosecution in the United States. Significant restrictions on rights and liberties in Georgia have marked 2025. One case that caused a massive outcry was the suspension of voting rights for citizens living abroad. For a country with 1.5 million people living overseas that relies heavily on their remittances, it was a critical move for the Kotsebi to strip away their limited political participation. In the article, The Georgian Dream's Migrant Disenfranchisement, Cash Machines Without a Say, for Geopolitics magazine, Vano Chikhvadze provides an in-depth analysis of the reasoning and repercussions behind the decision. He breaks down how the ruling party, unable to control or intimidate voters in free environments, has moved to eliminate them entirely. Chikhvadze illustrates a reality where migrants are valued as financial lifelines, but denied political agency. Check out the full article in English, link in the show notes. On a business update, on Thursday the 1st, a new law officially removed the 18% import tax on investment gold. Government says this will turn Georgia into a regional hub for gold and boost the economy. Not everyone agrees, like nobody. Economist Gogi Khishtovani says the law is clearly tailored for one person. He points out that regular Georgians don't have the cash to buy gold bars, so the tax break is useless for the public. He says the government wrote this specifically to benefit Bidzina Ivanishvili, who works just like the offshore law from last year, letting the country's richest man move as much of his private wealth into Georgia as the Kremlin allows, tax-free. Georgia has introduced stricter rules to protect pets. The law bans practice of cutting a pet's ears or tails, removing claws for non-medical reasons, any procedure that will cause pain or reduce hearing. Pet owners are obliged to take sick animals to a veterinarian, to report bites or scratches if rabies is suspected, and clean up public spaces after their pets. People who feed or care for stray animals must register them, feed them properly, and avoid bringing them near schools, kindergartens, hospitals, metro stations, or playgrounds. Also, veterinary clinics, shelters, and pet hotels must meet hygiene and welfare standards. Closing with some entertaining news, or at least a video that everybody watched. A marriage proposal in Batumi in western Georgia during New Year's Eve went viral after the couple fell through Christmas decorations. In the video, a couple seems to be standing under a giant Christmas tree set on a platform. Just as the moment when the man decides to get on his knees to propose, the platform breaks and both fall under the platform. Fortunately, nobody was injured. The couple took it all in good spirits. Watch the video in the link in the show notes. And that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us. Nach Vamdis.